Hi everybody, Ann here. So we are getting ready for Halloween. This month is October, and I am going to start with a little pumpkin that you can use to make a little diorama or whatever you might be interested in. To start off with, I'm going to make my vine cane. And my vine cane is going to be made out of two different shades of green. This one is Ephelba that I'm starting with here. And then I also have a grass green. And the grass green is different every time I get it when I order it. So I don't know. It's kind of, this most recent ones came more of a kind of a dark sagey kind of green. It's not really the grass green that I had gotten used to before, but I guess I need to get used to this new style of the grass green that's not very bright, because this is what I've gotten the last couple of times that I ordered it. So anyway, the Ephelba is kind of a light green, kind of a spring green, and I'm just going to put that on the end of a punty. Put a bit of it. I want a decent gather of it because I want to make more than one pumpkin maybe. And then this is my kind of the grass green. It's a darker, definitely a darker green. And I'm going to make this a twisty for my vine cane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stripe on a stripe of the darker green and turn it a quarter of a turn, and then stripe another stripe of the green, of the grass green. Turn it another quarter and stripe down. And then the last one. So you'll have 4 stripes of the darker green, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go back with my Ephelba, and in between those stripes of the dark green, I'm going to put in stripes of the Ephelba again. And the reason that I do this is so that that grass green doesn't just spread and take up all of that Ephelba space. If you just try and melt that grass green in, it'll spread really wide, potentially, usually. So I'm just putting roughly the same amount of the Ephelba as I did the grass green. So there are ridges and valleys, as you can see. So now I need to melt it all together. So that'll take a minute. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on my outer flame. You do not need an outer flame to do twisties. You really just don't. It's might speed things up for you, but that's about all it does. It's not necessary. Just take your time. I just want to make these lines and ridges that I have in here go away by heating this up all together. Trying to find one of my other punties here that doesn't have something stuck to it, but they all have stuff stuck to it. There we go. I like to, when I'm pulling punties and that. No, when I'm pulling twisties, I like to punty on both sides. I feel that gives me better control. Sometimes I'll just punty with a piece of glass, but the metal punties are nice. And for the metal punties, I just use a Pandora-sized mandrel. Alright, so I'm just, like I say, heating this up so that it's all nice and hot and coming together as one big glob of striped greens. And once that's about all together, I'm going to punty up on this other side here. And you want to kind of, as close as you can be in the middle where all of those stripes have met, so that you're not losing any of your stripes. And then you're going to heat it up nice and hot and all one temperature, focusing a little bit on these ends to some extent, because they tend to cool down the fastest because they're attached to the metal. Okay, nice and hot, nice and hot. And then we're going to slowly pull out a little bit and start twisting. And pulling and twisting and pulling and twisting and pulling and twisting. You're going to get a nice tight twist with this, with the 4 lines of the dark green, because you have those 4 lines. If you just had 1 line of green, of dark green, and 1 line of the light green, it would not be as tight of a twisty. Okay, and that is going to be the stem and excuse me, the stem of my pumpkin. Okay, now for my pumpkin, we're going to move on. Now I have 2 different colors of orange. Now literally they're both called orange on my tags here. So at one point I got the light orange when I ordered orange, and then the next time I got a darker version of said orange. So who knows? I don't know. But I like to work with the 2 different colors of orange because I find that gives you a little bit of, I don't know, just more texture, as it were, without doing a whole lot of other work to get what you want out of it, to get the differentiation out of it. So now I'm going to use most of this because I don't want this to be a tiny little pumpkin. I want it to be a decent sized pumpkin. And I'm going to do it on a punty. So it's going to have to be pretty well adhered to that punty for it to stay on there while I'm doing my stuff. I might punty it up to glass later, but I'm going to start right now with it puntied to metal, because then it won't melt. The metal doesn't melt, whereas if you punty it up to glass, you might lose that connection. And again, I'm just going to put on my outer flame so I can speed up the process here. You guys don't want to spend all day watching one video. I am just literally making a gather at this point with this entire rod of orange. And it doesn't matter how you get that orange on there. You're just gonna shape it up in a little while. I used the lighter of the 2 oranges that I had for this, for the bottom. If you purchase cheap clear, you could make this center out of clear and then encase it in orange so that you're not wasting all your orange. I don't buy cheap clear anymore. I only buy Zephyr from Double Helix, so I don't have any cheap clear that I would want to use as my center. It's cheaper for me to use the colored glass here. But if you were going to make a solid pumpkin and you're a Bora worker, you would want to do this part in clear because it's so much less expensive, and then encase it with your color glass. So I tag all of my glass colors nowadays. I didn't used to. When I first started, I was silly and didn't. I totally suggest that if you're just starting out, that you take the time to label all of your glass. In the grand scheme of your world, you will be helping yourself out. So I got that entire rod of orange on here. It's not very big. And what I'm going to add is not really going to add a whole lot of bulk to this. I have a bead roller here that I'm going to shape my little guy in, my little pumpkin. I'm just rolling it in there to get it kind of a basic round shape. It's not going to be perfect at this point. I don't care. It's a pumpkin anyway. Pumpkins are not perfect. Now I'm going to swipe on some of my darker orange. Now, if I were, you could pull this out into a stringer. That would be a good idea. Or you can do it the way I'm going to do it, which is just going to tag it down and then kind of pull it taut so that it lays a kind of a narrow line. And I'm going to go all the way around it, making those lines. And does it matter if they're completely evenly spaced? No, I don't believe it does. I don't have an anal retentive bone in my body, as I tell my family all the time, because they are all anal retentive about certain things. They want them to be done perfectly, and art, I don't believe, is like that. Okay, so now I have stripes all the way around it, and what I'm going to do is for me, if I wanted to, I could leave that as my pumpkin and then put my twisty on it and give it a top, but I'm going to melt these guys in, and I'm going to hope that as I melt them in, I'll be able to see the difference in the two oranges. I don't know that I will, so what I might do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to choose one at a time to melt almost in. I'll spend a little bit of time on him, just to kind of safety heat the rest of it, but not very hot. And then once I've got that heated most of the way in, I'm going to use the edge of my magic wand and make a crease. And then I'm going to skip one, and I'm going to do it to the next little guy. And using my magic wand, I'm going to make a crease. And I'm skipping every other one so that it doesn't get too hot. And start sagging. Ooh, nobody wants a saggy pumpkin. Alright, so every other one now is done, and now I'm gonna start on this one here. Heat it till it's almost all the way in. And skip the one that I had already done. And I'm just going along. Every other one still needs to be melted in. Okay. So you can kind of see him. He's got lots of different levels on him. He's certainly not smooth. And that's what I want. I don't want him to be smooth. Pumpkins aren't smooth. So I heated the bottom, and I'm going to flatten it because I want it to be able to sit. And then I'm going to use a clear to punty up with. And when you're puntying up, you want to get your clear glass into kind of a sharpened pencil look. So I'm just rolling it on a marver Sorry it's out of your view. I can see if I can't stick it in there. But I'm heating up that tip, and then I'm at an angle, rolling it on my marver so that I get that pencil shape. Now I'm going to disconnect this from my punty. I'm going to do kind of a cold seal. Nothing's really a cold seal with soft glass. If it's hot enough to stick to it, it's going to be hot enough that it's going to stay stuck most likely, and you're just going to have to pick it off. But for this mandrel, I'm pulling that out. I've kind of got a hole in the top there, which is fine, because again, pumpkins are not solid one texture. You want them to have some texture. If you've got some lumps that you don't like, use your tweezers and kind of push them in towards the center. We're not trying to pick stuff off here. We want to just give ourselves as much of this glass as we can staying stuck there. Now, this is our twisty that I made first off. I'm going to just nip it with my nippers. And I'm going to make myself a vine coming out of this center. So I want to kind of look, where do I want that vine to come out of? I'm going to add just a little vine coming out, going around. There we go. So I've got a little vine coming out of him. I'm going to go ahead and heat up this pumpkin pretty good at this top where that vine goes in, and then I'm going to stick my twisty in there, and I'm going to nip off my twisty and just kind of heat it up a little bit, kind of towards that base there, make it more rounded so that it doesn't come off and get broken. All right, so there's my little pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and heat up my tweezers here because I'm going to transfer it over into my kiln. I want to give it some insurance heat. Make sure my twisty is nice and adhered. Make sure I've got some nice insurance heat. I'm going to grab my little thing here and try and break it off at the bottom, and it broke off pretty nicely. Come here and make sure that it does not have too much of a piece of glass stuck there, and it doesn't. So heating that up, and I'm going to go bring them into my kiln. Okay, now I have got a super cute little pumpkin in my kiln, and we're going to move on to the next thing I'll teach you, which will be coming up here in a minute. Thanks. Bye.